Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Strategy Mob. Today, I have two very special guests. I have Miss Lyamen and Mr. George, who are both joining me to talk a little bit about just how they're doing during this whole quarantine period and how they see our industry progressing as we come out of it. Hey, but before we get into kind of the depth of our conversation today, I think some origin stories would be a great place for us to start. Lyamen, I'm going to start with you. How did you get into this crazy business we call the automotive industry?
Great question. It was pure accident. I never would have in a million years thought anything about automotive. I mean, I've bought many cars in my life, but I would have never in a million years thought about doing anything with automotive industry. And so I had a best friend who, I traveled the world with and everything. So we always talked about our careers. And she worked at an independent dealership here in Washington State. And she would always, we would go on the walks at the end of the day in Kirkland. In downtown Kirkland. And so we would talk about our, jobs and things that are happening. And at that time I worked at Microsoft. And so she was getting promoted from being a finance manager to being a COO of a dealership. It was her family dealership. And so she was doing really, really well as a finance manager. She was making so much money. It was ridiculous. And so, but then when she was thinking about going to become a COO, she was talking about how hard it is to backfill her role. And I'm like, why is it so hard to backfill your role? And so she was telling me all the challenges with hiring finance managers, and she's been doing since she was 17 years old. So she was really, really good at it. And so long story short, the more and more she was telling me about how hard it is to backfill her role, I realized that her dealership was not using the technology, to help them be more efficient, to improve, not have to hire the most expensive people or somebody who's been in the automotive industry for 20 years to be able to do what she does. So, then fast forward, she asked me to come in one day to her dealership to help her with marketing. Like she had a marketing agency and her dealership was growing really fast. And then she's like, Lyamen, can you come in and take a look at what we're doing? Just audit it. Like, just tell me if we're doing a good job, if there's something we could be doing better. And so I came in and, on a Saturday, I spent like 3 or 4 hours at her dealership. And that's when my whole journey started. The more and more I spent time with her, the more I realized how everything's so backwards. And the more and more I realized how everything's so backwards, and I tried helping her find vendors who could do a better job, and I couldn't. And that's when I realized, I'm like, I have to do this myself. I'm like, I would have never in a million years thought an automotive industry, as one of the oldest industries, one of the most important industries in the United States, could be so outdated. And so long story short, 3-to-1 ignition was born.
That's very cool. But it's true though. I mean, as far as an industry goes, our adoption of technology or adoption of best practices and new social standards and stuff. I mean, as an industry, we really suck at being social. Like we focus on the media side of the business pretty good, but we don't seem to adopt, some of the most common practices. But George, you don't have that problem, do you? You are literally Mr. Social. So yes. But before we get into Mr. Social and how he became Mr. Social, by the way, that's what I'm going to call you from now on. I'm just calling you Mr. Social.
I like it. I like it.
George, let's talk a little origin story, man. How'd you get started into this business?
Wow. I started washing cars when I was 16 years old, just on weekends. And I saw some of the guys that were working at the dealerships and the money they were making and the partying they were doing. And I was their designated driver at night. I'm thinking, wow, this is a lot of fun. And I went to Georgian College up in Barrie, the Canadian Automotive Institute at the time, which is now the Automotive School of Business. And I did 3 years there, and I got to meet kids all across Canada who their fathers owned dealerships. It was basically 99% of the kids that their parents owned dealerships, and then there was me. So it was an incredible time, and from there I went down to the U.S. I went down to Florida, the Northwood campus down in West Palm Beach, Florida. And then I got to meet kids where their parents owned dealerships all over the world. Again, 99% of the kids I went to school with, their parents owned dealerships all over the world. And then there was me.
So do you use the term PhD or DPK?
PhD, Papa has dealership, yeah.
Has dealership, I like it.
Yeah, so I went to school with a bunch of PhDs. It was crazy. And we had a lot of fun. And then I got out of university and I got hired back by the gentleman who first hired me, right back in the auto industry, and sold cars for 7.5 years. And then I got into management for about 20 years. I ran some of the biggest new and used car departments in the country for Toyota. I was a general sales manager. And then in the last year, I decided I'm gonna go back to simple selling, having fun, interacting with people. I threw in the whole Mr. Social into the whole social media world. And for people who know me, that's just me. But I decided to kind of go out there with it and have fun with it.
Okay, so real quick, let's set something straight, George, before we kind of get into our conversation. All right. You are who you are on social as you are in real person, right? I mean, a lot of people out there are wondering, can that guy possibly be that loud and have that much energy all the time? So set it straight right now, George. Let's do this. All right.
Let the record speak for itself. It's all true.
Of course it is. All right. Hey guys, we'll get into our conversation for today. I'm curious, for yourselves, for like a lot of people right now that are going, through this quarantine, this coronavirus, period, everybody's current norm is all slightly different, and Lyman, I'll start with you. What does that current norm look like for you?
My current norm is I haven't really seen people besides being on Zoom. So luckily for me, I have so many phone calls that I'm constantly on Zoom. I'm constantly in meeting after meeting after meeting. So I have that social interaction. But beyond that, I think my highlights of the day is going grocery shopping and actually seeing other people and being able to dress up. And I love dressing up. So, before COVID, every weekend, I would put on a really cute dress and I'll go have dinner with my friends. Now it's like, oh my God, I get to go grocery shopping. Where's my dress? Well, everybody's wearing it.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm the same way. I'm all business up here, but I'll tell you, it's no pants Wednesday for me right now. Is it Wednesday? Yeah. It's Wednesday, isn't it?
You took the words out of my mouth.
I don't even know what the day is.
I don't even know.
Dude, I haven't worn shoes in a week. I mean,
Is that what you're hiding underneath that camera?
That's right. This is just, I just kind of set the vest and the dress shirt over there. And whenever I need to jump on the camera, I just kind of throw it on. Hey, George, man, for yourself, what's the current norm look like for you, brother?
Yeah, my internal clock is shot. I'm up in the middle of the night. I'm taking naps. I'm talking with customers at the oddest times of day and night. It's completely out of the norm and shut down completely. So it's every day's like a Sunday. It's like a Groundhog Day. It's crazy.
It's actually a great way to kind of to describe it. It's just like a Groundhog Day, over and over again.
What was it? OEM who just did a commercial for Super Bowl, the Groundhog's Day. Was it a Fiat Chrysler Dodge? OEM?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Maybe they saw the future. They're like,
they saw it coming.
I have no idea how this is going to be relevant a month from today.
You know what? Something that I've been trying to figure this out myself. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it seemed like the OEMs responded really quickly to this.
Yes.
I'm talking fast, almost in the sense where it kind of felt like they had an overnight oh shit bag. And it was I'm thinking back, when my wife was pregnant, there was always that bag that was kind of sitting at the front, whenever it was go time, it was just okay, it's there, it's ready. It's they kind of had this go bag, ready. So maybe they learned their lesson from the recession, but I think the first commercial I saw was from GM, and I swear it came out maybe 24, 48 hours when, people were like, you need to stay home. I was like, wow, that was fast.
Yeah, but that probably cost them an arm and a leg to do a commercial at the last minute like that. But
you know what, though? I kind of feel like it happened so fast. I really question, did they actually make it in real time, or was there something built? You know what I mean? Was it kind of almost partially built and just kind of sitting there ready to go?
No doubt.
Yeah,
right.
They probably just edited the voiceover, but they probably already had a footage of cars driving by or whatever.
It felt like it was kind of like that way. But you know what? That's actually a good kind of segue into our conversation is, you know, kind of how you guys see, you know, the new norm, you know, for our industry is going to be. You know, you guys can disagree with me. And if you do, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But I definitely do not believe that we're going to be going back to the way that we've done business in the past, in the sense where we completely control the process for a customer. You know, like I don't foresee us ever going back to that place where it's like we tell the customer, no, Mr. Customer, here are the 1 through 10 steps that you have to do to actually purchase or service with me. Like I think socially now, all right, customers that now have gone through this phase where, you know, to your point, you know, I mean, you're talking about grocery shopping. You know, I've been doing grocery like pickups, and I have 3 kids under the age of 9. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell have I been doing all this time? Like, why in the world was I taking 3 kids into a grocery store, you know, when I can literally just pull up, you know, and hit the button to the rear hatch and they throw it in and I drive off. Like, I honestly can't ever foresee myself walking to a grocery store again, you know, after this experience, you know, not just because of social distancing, but just because of the productivity, right? So I'd like to hear, let's hear your guys' thoughts of how you foresee, you know, that first 6 to 12 months of coming out of this, where, you know, the governments are going to say, okay, everyone, you can start popping your heads out. You can start showing up to restaurants. You can start showing up to actual physical showrooms. You know, how do you guys see the new norm is going to be for our industry?
I think human nature in general, you're going to see, especially at the beginning, everybody's going to be very cautious. Yeah, we're going to have to try all kinds of different techniques. For the retailers who are not scared to try new techniques, those guys are the ones that I think they're going to persevere, and they're going to get stronger, especially coming out of the bat. I know there's some dealers that have already incorporated different initiatives, and those are the guys that aren't scared to kind of throw the ball and see what happens. Try and get a strike, and if you hit a ball, so what? On to the next ball. So yeah, we're going to definitely have to do something different. I think video, the internet, people are now, I had a customer today. He went and did his own approval by himself. He sent me his pre-approval by himself through Toyota, told me this is how much I'm approved for. And I'm going to probably go by his house in the next couple of days, go do an appraisal on his car. And it'll all be done via internet and just very limited social face-to-face communication.
Well, and that's just because that's the way that he's chosen to purchase. That's the way he's chosen to engage. Now, it's cool, though, that for yourself as a dealership, all right, you guys are willing to say, okay, we'll play ball the way you want to play ball. If that's what you want to do. All right, fine. We'll make those changes. Lyman, for yourself, you know, on how your company engages with dealerships, you know, how do you see that changing, you know, going into this new norm?
You guys have no idea how busy we have been. And so my company is 321 Ignition. We're a website provider. And we're actually the only company that's mobile first. And what's amazing is, you know, prior to COVID, a lot of times when we would talk to dealerships, and I would talk to like huge auto groups, and, you know, their feedback was always, well, you know, I have a website, it's good enough. It was almost like a business card. Check, I got it. And now they actually realize how important the website is. And value time more than anything. Like, I'm willing to spend more money. And so, like I always say, you know, I put an hourly rate for myself. And if anything that I do costs less than what my hourly rate is, then I outsource it. I don't do it. Because we just need to be so much more productive, and we value productivity, especially, you know, Jason, with you with 3 kids, you know, like, sure, maybe another dealership, you know, across the street might be $1,000 less for the car you want to buy. But if the other dealership helped you save money or helped you save time, so you could spend more time with your family, so you could spend more time on your business, aren't you willing to spend that $1,000 more on the car? So, you know, dealerships' profit margins are shrinking, you know, from selling cars. So the best way to improve the profit margins is to actually provide one-of-a-kind services. And that's just to say, you know, our business is a family business. We've been here in the same area 30 years. Nobody cares about that. You know, consumers.
That's so true. No one gives a crap about that.
Yeah, they care about how you're going to help them save time. How do you make it simpler for them to get the information, help them do their homework? And like same thing as you, George, I'm up most of the days like until 3-4 o'clock in the morning because, I'm constantly working. And so I need people and companies that I work with to be able to operate in my hours. So that means like if I'm searching for information at 2 o'clock in the morning, I want that information to be available. I don't want to have to wait for somebody to get back to me. I want a simple, friction-free experience. And so for 3-2-1 Ignition, we've been so busy actually ever since the COVID happened. I almost can't even keep up with the demand is because, we created a user experience that was designed for people to shop online. One of the things that drives me nuts is when people talk about digital retailing tools and they talk about those digital retailing tools like it's, AI. Remember how when AI first got in?
Oh God, I actually hate the word because it's the same. There is nobody out there that's really using AI. Come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
99% of the time it's machine learning, but it's a buzzword. But to your point, I apologize for interrupting. Continue.
Well, same thing like with some OEMs like Honda, for example. I think they just mandated all of their dealerships to use digital retailing companies, and they approved a couple of vendors. But the problem is not with the digital retailing. The problem is the user experience on the website. It doesn't matter if you have the best tools in the world, but if you're putting them on a website that has a terrible user experience and people can't navigate, like for example, a lot of times when I go to GM dealership websites, sorry, GM guys, I'll see on the top navigation, they'll be like new inventory, used inventory, finance, like it has so many categories. And a lot of times when I try to find, well, where's get pre-approved application? I can't even find a get pre-approved application. And I'm in an automotive industry, build websites. I'm used to searching for information. A lot of times I can't even find any information. So, just putting another digital retailing tool is not going to help dealerships sell more cars. They really need to start from square one and reevaluate their, the user experience. And unfortunately, a lot of the bigger website provider companies have been around for so long. And if you think about it, like somebody who, and I'm not going to name names, but everybody knows who I'm talking about, website companies have been around for 10, 15 years. If you think about it.
Come on now, Lyamen, say it. Don't be scared.
I don't know if I should be. Okay, fine. The dealer.coms of the world, the CDKs of the world.
Well, you know what it is. It's the big juggernauts that haven't been willing to actually move. But you know what, though? As much as I get upset with them, I also actually get more upset with the dealers because they didn't care that much about their website. Why would these big juggernauts actually take the time to make the changes?
Actually, so here's the thing. So Jason, actually, I think dealerships are powerless. So in a couple of ways. So one, they're powerless. If they're OEM dealership, OEM mandates it. And, whatever OEM says, they have to do. There's very few OEM dealerships who are more progressive and innovative who would say, you know what, forget what OEM is saying. I want to stand out. I want to innovate. And you guys OEM can keep up with it, evaluating new vendors as fast as you can. But there's very few of those people, who actually will be the rebels. Most people will follow the rules. And then there's the other problem with dealerships is if you think about it, if you take even like a really decent sized dealership, it's somebody who maybe sells 200 cars, 300 cars. How many employees would that dealership have? Like maybe 50, 60 employees, right? Okay, right. So if you think about it, out of those 50, 60 employees, how many of those people are actually in charge of marketing? Dealerships can't afford to have a marketing department. So what happens, because, marketing is not a one person's job. Marketing is a copywriter, a designer, a marketing manager, a developer, a QA person, an analytics person. Before all said and done, you need a team of minimum 11 people. I counted it several times. I'm like, is there any way to do it less than 11 people?
Lyman, you got to remember, okay? Jason and I were in the auto industry when there wasn't even a computer allowed in the dealership, okay?
You remember when websites first started coming in?
Yeah, a lot of these guys are still in the auto industry.
But here's the thing.
And that's actually a good point. I mean, Lyman, I think there are dealerships out there that are, putting their pitchforks in the air and demanding some change, but there are a lot of dealerships out there that just don't give a shit about their digital dealership. I mean, you said it earlier, Lyman, actually, when we started talking. Well, they do now. See, this is what I love about this, right? Is that, I think you said it earlier, for a lot of dealerships, they just kind of looked at their website solution as a glorified brochure.
Yeah.
Like they didn't actually treat it as a digital version of their business. They just kind of treat it as kind of this secondary. In fact, even, a lot of dealerships can treat internet leads as like third-class citizens. Like,
oh my God, Jason,
those internet leads. Oh, geez.
that we add for dealership website is a video tool, so it allows people to actually do one-way video code, so they could do live video walk around. And the salespeople at the dealerships that I work with, like, you have no idea how many times I try training them how to use it. They're not answering incoming calls. I'm like, you guys.
I'll tell you something. At our store, I am one of only few people that are actually doing any sort of video. The owner has told the staff many times, guys, hey, digital pays off. It's proof in the pudding. And some people still just want to be in their own ways. It's a lot of people that think they're just customers just going to walk in the door like they used to.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
those are order takers. That's like being at a groceries Safeway checkout and somebody comes in and says, I want a gum. Great, let me ring you up. Those are not salespeople.
I think that's the cool part. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're kind of hinting here, is that is what the byproduct of this time is going to be. Look, there's a lot of bad things going on right now. So I'm not trying to say how wonderful this is, but to a certain degree, it kind of took the dealerships to just slightly implode so that they can really start to focus and identify, really what the customer cares about. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The customer cares about having a easy, seamless, frictionless, buying experience, because that's what they're getting everywhere else.
And
that's what I get at the grocery store. That's what I get at Staples and Best Buy and Amazon.
Yeah, like for example, I'm a girl and I care about my appearance, obviously a little bit vain, but I like to get my hair.
Wait, are you saying that we don't care about our appearance?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
what are you saying?
Than you guys are. But what I'm saying is that, when I used to go to the hair salons, I would have one hairstylist and I would always make an appointment with her. Now, they all know how to cut hair. They all know how to color hair. So like if I am going to a hair salon trying to make an appointment and the stylist is not available days and times I'm available, I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I'm not working around their schedule. They're working around my schedule. Who else do you have? Like, I have zero loyalty to my hairdressers. It's hair. Like, you went through a hair school, you know how to cut hair. And so
I feel the same way. I may be honest with you. There's only certain people that can make this bad boy look as good as it does.
I just got my haircut actually.
Did you do it yourself?
No, I had a friend of mine do it for me.
I actually cut my hair myself, and I'm so glad we're able to do this podcast like front facing, because I took a chunk of hair out the back, and so you can't see it right now, but if you look for me from the back, there's this 2-inch by 2-inch square that's just like nothing but skin. So I'll be wearing a baseball cap for a good chunk of when we're able to pop our head out and talk about
Jason,
that.
there's going to be a lot of change in our industry. There's no doubt. You're already starting to see it. We're coming around to other industries. The U.S. has obviously always been ahead of us in the auto industry. They've always been way ahead of us. I'd say 3 to 4 years ahead of us. But I think the Canadian auto industry, you're going to see a lot of change. And I think a lot of change for the better. I think this is all change for the good. I'm a positive guy, and I think this is just going to just kind of legitimize the business even more. And you're going to see I personally think for the people who want to go that extra mile and make it happen, for those individual people who want to spend more time with their families, don't want to spend 3-4 hours at a dealership, I think it's gonna benefit us. No question.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I think, coming out of this, all right, the better physical operators and the better digital operators are the ones that are actually going to benefit the most from it. In fact, we're already seeing it. I mean, I mean, Lyman, I'm sure you've been talking to a lot of dealerships the same as I have, and I'm almost kind of a 50-50 split. I mean, I have some dealerships out there right now that are, only down maybe 20-25%, because they've had a digital mindset going into this way before this all happened. So it's almost like they were operationally kind of prepared. And then I have some that are, operating at 20% of what they normally do. So it's kind of this fluctuation, but let's give some advice to some people that, to the dealerships out there that are watching and listening and that are going to be kind of coming out of this, and the showroom's going to start filling up. Let's start talking about what the new norm looks like from a digital dealership perspective. And, I'll set that one up for you, Lyman. And then for yourself, George, to give you a moment to think about it, what that new sales process is going to look like, because I believe it's both. It's not one or the other. It's like the tech and the process have to work together. So, Lyman, for yourself, how does it look like coming out of this and going into the new norm that dealerships engage with technology?
Yeah, so you know what, Jason, it's interesting. This is not even necessarily related to COVID, but in terms of the new norm for digital, I don't know if you guys heard the announcement, but Google is changing their crawling bots, Google bot crawling bots ranking to mobile first starting September 2020. They actually already started doing it in July 2019, but they were using it predominantly mobile first. Now starting September 2020, it's going to be all websites going to be crawled using mobile first indexing. So any dealership that doesn't have a mobile first, it's going to start hurting their organic ranking. It's going to start hurting their marketing ROI and everything else. And, the new norm, and said not even related to COVID or anything, but the new norm is mobile usage. Everybody is on mobile devices. Like Facebook is a mobile first company. Google is a mobile first company. Instagram is a mobile first company. So, with you guys all doing social media, and you guys know this, so you've seen in Google Analytics, Instagram, 100% of their audience is mobile. So imagine people are seeing dealership ads on Instagram who are on mobile, and it doesn't matter how great your targeting is. Like, you might have created the best lookalike audiences, you might have created the best, in-market audiences. You might have the most beautiful, the most catchy, the most intriguing ads. But if people are clicking on those ads and landing on the website experience that's now mobile first, guess what happens? They bounce. And when they bounce, two things happen. Google and Facebook, they have this thing called relevance score or quality keyword ranking. And when your quality score is too low, two things happen. One, you're paying more for cost per click. So anything on Google, if your quality score is 5 or lower, then you're paying anywhere from 28% to 400% more on a cost per click. Not only that, also, depending on the competition. So let's say, Google is an auction model, so is Facebook. So let's say you're in an area that has maybe 5 other dealerships and they're all bidding on the exact same keywords. Not only if your quality score is worse than your competitors, not only are you going to be paying more for cost per click, but also your ads might not even be seen, even if you are willing to pay more.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, we're being forced as an industry just to get better. We're being pushed by our customers, to have better experience, both online and offline. Yeah. And, we're being pushed by, these big juggernauts, Google and Facebook, to provide a better online experience. It's like, everything's kind of been bottlenecking up to this point. And it's like, I think as an industry, we just don't have a choice.
Exactly.
It's like adopt or die kind of, and that's why I think we are. Am I going too extreme with this, or do you guys agree with me? Like, it is literally like,
100%.
Hit the road.
I mean, the COVID thing was almost like an earthquake, like an aftershock that happened. But this has been happening. It's just now it's more so drastic where, dealership have to wake up. And actually, some of the dealerships that I talked to who are using our platform, their lead volume actually hasn't slowed down. They're almost getting the exact same lead volume, but they're operating on a skeleton crew. They're still getting a lot of sales. I mean, their sales are slightly a little bit down because, in some states you can't even sell a car unless it's a necessity or essential item. But what's interesting is also I was talking to one of our dealerships, and I'm like, do you guys even need salespeople anymore? Because everybody was able to do everything online.
That is a true point, because again, some of the dealers that have adopted that whole digital internet sort of sales experience, you're right. They're going to need less and less salespeople, and the salespeople they're going to want to keep are the ones that may have a experience, or that they got a huge customer base, or whatever the case is. But yeah, it is changing, and it's going to change fast. I agree with you.
Oh, look, I was talking to a dealer the other day, and I know this sounds bad, but it is what it is, right? He's like, Jason, this will be one of my most profitable months.
I know, that's exactly what my other dealership said too.
He's down 30% in 35% in RO counts and sales efforts and stuff like that. But he's doing that revenue with a third or a quarter of the staff and overhead that he had before. So, yeah. I mean, he's like, I know this sounds bad, but I literally going to have this question and start thinking about it. Like, think about on the sales side, right? 4 people are required. So 4 people are required to do this, right? You have this salesperson, BDC, maybe not, depending on your dealership, right? Then you have a sales manager and an F&I manager. Like there are 4 different people that have to get involved just for this transaction, the singular transaction happened. Like, do I really need to employ that many people to do this? I know it sounds crazy. I apologize. I didn't mean to jump in there, but I'll let you continue, Lyman.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you really don't, especially like we talked about earlier. A lot of times people are not really selling. They're just taking orders. So maybe it's worth it where dealerships spend more and invest more in their social media. Like Jason, we were talking about, the salespeople versus, the video editors, or investing more in the content and things like that. And really thinking about, who's building their websites. And instead, maybe then hire less qualified salespeople who are just trained in the best customer service, and they just know the product so well where they could answer every question, but they're not necessarily there to sell. Like your marketing will do the selling, build the credibility as the subject, thought leader in the, Ford cars or GM cars, or so where people come to you, not because you have the cheapest cars, but because you made it simple, because you're a true expert, you advise them. Like when I was building this company, I talked to several millennials and Gen Zs. I would interview them and do market research. And one of the ladies, I asked her, I'm like, do you own a car? She says, no, I don't, but not because I don't want one. She's like, I actually walked into the dealership 3 times, and every single time I walked out, because all the salesperson was asking me is what's my budget? What could I afford? She's like, he wanted to spend no time trying to educate me about what are my trade-offs? What are my options? And the reality is that there's a lot of times salespeople at the dealership, they just care about hitting their quota. Well, if that's the case, then, invest in your marketing and in your digital experience to help educate the customers, let them do the homework, and then just hire great customer support people,
Well, I mean, that's a good point.
Lyman,
George,
I have to disagree with Lyman a little bit there. I got to step in on that one, Jason.
Okay, go for it.
That one's too hot for me.
Let's do it, George.
Okay, because I'll tell you right now, when you say salespeople, you're being very general. When guys like myself I'm up all hours of the night, days and night. I go to people's houses from 7 a.m. till midnight if I have to. So you got to understand, you're being very broad and you're laying out a blanket. But no, I got my own brother. My brother's been in sales, in Lexus sales as long as I have. He's the #1 Lexus guy in the country. I video chat him today. He was getting a car flatbedded up to a customer in Barrie, which is about an hour north of Toronto, just to hand over a box of keys and wave at them from a distance,
That's customer service, George. That's not like what you described as providing excellent customer service.
I think what it is, and Lyman, I understand exactly what you're saying, right? That customers don't want to be sold. All right.
Right.
I mean, look, in fact, I mean, George, we've seen this a bunch of times in our industry, that we've changed the name to product advisor, or sales advisor, where we advise them on, the best purchase, for them, but there are, look, George, we both know, man, there's a bunch of salespeople out there that are still just selling, hardcore, just selling crap.
Question.
Yeah, that's majority.
No question.
George, what you're describing is you and your brother are one of a kind. Like I actually have identical twin sister, and she works for Hewlett Packard, HMP. She's responsible for over $130 million of revenue quota. She's not an average salesperson, like $100 million in revenue. That's like a CEO of a medium-sized company, and she's just a national salesperson. But when Amazon contacts her saying, hey, we need X number, or whatever they need, she doesn't just take an order. She's part of their strategic conversations about what it is they're building, what are the solutions they're trying to get. Like she's a consultant. That's one of a kind salespeople. There's very, very few salespeople like that. Majority of salespeople are just order takers. They don't know the product well enough to be actual good salespeople.
I can't tell you how many times I get my customers bringing me my lunch and dinner at work.
Yeah, but George,
actually, that's a perfect segue, guys, into the next question, which I kind of set up for you, George, is, I think as an industry, what's going to happen during this time frame, it's going to filter out a lot of the crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what's that old saying? Kind of cream rises to the top. Maybe I said that right. Sure. And I think that what we're going to see right now, as far as salespeople go, we're going to see professionals, like real professionals like yourself, George, and the 20-some that we both know, right? Like that, they're going to rise. And then a lot of the people that were just, let's call them bottom feeders, because look, we all know. I mean, I've been sold once before I got in the industry. It hurt. I got taken pretty hard. And we all have friends and family that have been as well. And I think they're going to kind of fall off. I mean, I think the people that are going to kind of stick around, they're the ones that are really going to be professionals, because I think the new process is going to be way more customer centric than it has been in the past. And those bottom feeders are going to not want to be involved with that. They're not like your brother George, who's delivering a vehicle an hour and a half away, or for yourself, who really makes a connection with people. So George, I'm going to set you up for this question. All right. How do you see the new sales process going down?
Well, again, it's going to be time sensitive. I think time sensitive is going to be key. I think with everybody spent so much time at home over the last, month or 2 months, they really put the home front. I think it's going to increase, as well as should be.
So if it means going to people's homes, driving to their places of business, I've gone anywhere from uptown to downtown Toronto, north of Toronto. I've delivered, Jason, my all-time delivery, you ready to hear this? I drove a car myself all the way to Calgary.
Of course you did.
Drove to Calgary, that's right. Amazing. I got to drive across Canada, no joke. And I've always been that way. I've always been, customer first, making sure they feel special and giving them that full experience. But I'll tell you, every single sale I find is different in so many different ways. I'm selling now third generation customers. I've sold a little bit of the kids, and now I'm selling the grandkids. And
well, I think, George, you're like that as an individual. Okay. What I'm thinking is that when we come out of this, all right, it's going to be hard for me to clone you, George. That tech's not available yet, is it?
Yeah.
Can we clone you, George? But I think what it is we're going to have to process what you naturally do. Like, we're going to have to process the shit out of it, because I don't think that is necessarily just our first gut reaction is to do what George does.
Yeah, and
so like, how do we process what George does? Lemon, do you have any thoughts?
It all comes down to coaching. It's all coaching. Coaching is everything. I was watching that Michael Jordan episode there, The Last Dance.
I haven't caught it. Is it good?
Jackson, the coach. Look at Nick Nurse, our coach. Coaching with athletes and coaching what happens at the dealer level. I think it's something that needs to happen on a daily basis. And the people who should be the coaches, some of even them don't even have the tools to coach properly. Right? And it totally comes down to coaching. Well, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. So be it. Just keep on go on to the next learning, the next coaching session. Put your heads together, and it's going to come down to a lot of. I feel coaching is huge.
Yeah, but what's interesting with George, what you said, and that's the key point, is customer first. I don't hear that word in the automotive industry very often. But when I work at Microsoft,
like Lyman, you do a lot of marketing like I do. I mean, how many times have you been asked to create an ad or a campaign with that line in it?
Yeah. But just because you say it doesn't mean you actually do it. So as an example, I talk to a lot of dealerships about their car loan application. So at 321 Ignition, our car loan application has 55% completion rate, which is like unheard of. And it's because of the user experience we designed. However, we don't have a way to integrate with Route 1 because Route 1 charges like ridiculous amount of money for, thousands of dollars just to do the API integration. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend that kind of money to do API integration. And you should be wanting me to do API integration with them, which is the other crazy thing about automotive that pisses me off is like, coming from, the background of IT outside of automotive, companies will give you free API because the more companies integrate with you, the stickier the product is. In automotive, they try to charge you for API, which is the most craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I talk to dealerships and I walk them through our car loan application process and how easy it is for a customer to do it on a mobile device and how great, high conversion rates we have. Like we generate more car loan application leads for dealerships than any other leads. And if you think about it, those are the most qualified leads. Those are the lower funnel leads. Like that's the lead you should be like drooling over, like, oh my God, I got another car loan application lead. But the crazy thing is that just because we don't have a way to automatically push it to Route 1, whatever, dealerships oftentimes the first conversation I have with them is like, well, how about my salespeople? I don't want to allow them to, I don't want to make them to re-enter that information. And I'm like, listen, I get it. Nobody likes entering the information, but would you rather have your salespeople sitting there twinkling their thumbnails because they don't have any leads to follow up with, or And so great that everything is automated, but they have no sales to coming in. Or would you rather have a lot more car loan application leads, people who actually wanted to buy a car, but yes, they might have to do copy and paste a couple of times, big whip. I'm like, dealerships oftentimes, I convince them, they're like, once they hear, they're like, yeah, you're right, Lyman, let's do it. But usually, the conversation always starts off with, their operations instead of a customer first experience. I'm like, forget about what's happening in operations, like first customer first. A lot of times dealerships will create experiences that are great for their dealership, but not really great for customers. And that's like, George, what you were saying about, selling, it's customer first. That's the number one most important thing. Without customers, we have nothing. Here's if we have great operations.
But to Jason's point, the better ones are gonna rise to the top. And you know what? The ones that have that customer first approach, from the moment the customer has any interaction with a dealer, whether it be on your website, whether it be in the store or whatever the case is, everybody's got to have that same mindset, and the process all has to be coached daily.
Well, and I think that's something that as an industry we have to push for. I've had the opportunity to be in hundreds, if not thousands of dealerships and sit down and consult with them on their operations and their marketing efforts. And, I would love to tell you that a good chunk of them have a well-defined written process. But I'd be lying to you if more than half actually did. It's unfair. Unfortunately, it's not a lot out there. But I think as an industry, we're going to be forced. We're going to be forced. Look, we just got off of one of the best seasons as an industry we've ever had. Guys, look, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've pretty much been doing double-digit gains as, quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. This last year was the first year we started to see flat numbers. Now it's like, but we got fat. I call it full belly syndrome. Right? We've gotten full, and we've been able to, I think some, not all, I think some dealerships are doing phenomenal at this, and they're the ones that are prospering really well right now. But, as an industry, I think, we've been able to kind of half-ass our way through this. We've kind of been able to half-ass our way through a customer-centric sales process. We've been able to half-ass our way through a customer-centric digital dealership style solution, and treating it like a digital. But all that's going to change.
Yeah, what's interesting is before COVID, a lot of times when we had talked to dealerships, like, hey, I noticed your website is not mobile first. Here's all the issues that we're seeing. It's not customer friendly, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times dealership would say, well, I'm doing really well as a dealership, so why change?
Full belly syndrome.
Yes, exactly. There's totally full belly syndrome. And so, the great thing that happened out of COVID, not that COVID is great by any means, but the great thing that happened is actually let us rethink, just because we're generating revenue, is this actually the right way? Is our operation still, could have been better? When you're generating revenue and you're profitable, it's hard to actually think about the problems. You feel like nothing is broken. Why fix it? And you don't even realize your system is broken. You just don't realize that it's broken.
Well, we've spent a lot of time as an industry, and George, you know this too, because you've been in a bunch of these meetings where we talk about what we've done. We've been able to achieve this. Very seldomly do we talk about what we could have done. What could we have achieved if we had changed this or changed that? But look, I think this time it's going to force us. I honestly, I think there's a lot of dealerships out there that are going to have to take this time and really think about how they're putting the customer first. And I think both of you guys are completely in line with that. Hey guys, I know it's getting towards the tail end of our time today, but before we go, I get to ask my favorite question, which I think Lyman already started going into it. She got a little heated there for a moment there. Gosh, those integration cost and companies.
Oh my God.
Them. But no, guys, real quick. My favorite question of the day. What is pissing you off? Lyman, I'm going to start with you. Currently right now, what is pissing you off?
Two things. When people use the buzzwords AI or digital retailing, really pisses me off. Especially AI. I was talking to one dealership who's like, oh, we figured out how to use AI to be able to test multiple variables at the same time. It's the newest technology. And I'm like, I've been doing marketing for 18 years. That's called multivariate testing. It's been around, welcome, good morning.
For a little while, it's been around, yep.
It's been literally around, I think, when I was like 22 years old, 23 years old doing marketing. And that's how long it's been around. I'm not 20, I'm nowhere close to be 23 right now. The other thing that pisses me off is the API integration fees. I've never heard of anybody charging for API integration fees. Software is only as good as the more people use it. If you think about Salesforce Salesforce is one of the worst CRMs possible, but it's one of the most expensive CRMs because of the number of people integrate with them. So
the thousands of integrations.
Huh?
There's thousands of integrations with them.
They have an open API. I mean, that's how Amazon grew. That's how Google grew. That's how Microsoft grew. Like all those companies have one thing in common. It's open API. And they actually then partner. Like, so I used to manage Office 365 team. And before I left Microsoft, I was on the go-to-market strategy team. And I was in charge of their partner channel. And majority of their sales comes from partner channel. But why an automotive people don't get that is way beyond me. Like, that's the thing that pisses me off. It gets me so heated.
Man, I love it. And you look heated right now. That's great.
I'm like, what?
You look heated. You look like you're about ready to roll up those sleeves and get into it a little bit with integration cost. We won't even talk the fact that they charge you initial integration cost, then they charge you monthly for even wanting to integrate with them. It's like, wow, man, really want to bend me over and stick it to me.
Yeah, like, the only people that suffer is dealerships. Literally, that's the only people. Like, that's why.
That's 100% true.
As crazy as it sounds, I know it doesn't sound authentic when I say, but I truly mean it. I started this company because I wanted to be an advocate for dealerships. When I saw the technology dealers were getting, how screwed they were getting on the media sources, how, the lack of transparency and everything else, I was so heated and so pissed off. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, that is literally why I started this company.
Well, I can't wait until, we're able to pop our heads out and Lyman, we're able to sit down and share a beer over this, because I think it'll be an entertaining chat for the two of us to have. Hey, George, I'm going to give you a shot now, man. What is pissing George off right now?
Oh, there's a lot of things pissing me off. I'll tell you something. When I go to the grocery store, I don't understand people. You know how you said you're a lot smarter than I am. Okay, let's just say it for the record, but I go into the grocery store and you got to respect people's distance and you got to kind of look around you. There's people that are walking right, cutting you off. And I'm like,
over your shoulder, asking you to grab something.
Yeah. Like, hold on a second. Like, we got some rules here, and part and parcel, what's going to change in our business is the respect for people's space, right? A lot of that's going to change. Other things that are pissing me off. I haven't watched so many movies in my life. I am going stir crazy. I am locked up inside. You keep a guy like me locked up inside, I'm like a popcorn kernel. I'm gonna explode sooner or later. So I need to get out of this cage, and I'm pretty excited because I know it's coming.
You know what, George, if you do pop, can you please shoot a video about that? It'll be, I guarantee you we'll call it the George Pops video. That'll be incredibly entertaining. But before we sign off today, guys, for everyone who's watching, listening right now, and would love to connect with the two of you and kind of follow along with your journey and learn more about what you guys do, what's the best way to do so? Lyman, I'll start with you.
Yeah, the best way to connect with me is either find me on my LinkedIn profile, Lyamen Savy, or on 321ignition.com. All of our contact information, everything is there.
Awesome. Thank you. George, yourself, what's the best way to connect with, brother?
Best way is, you got LinkedIn for sure is the best way. Instagram, I'm Toyota George, and on Facebook. So those are the three big guys.
Awesome. And guys, and if you're watching, listening to this, I implore you, you need to go check out both of these people. They are great. They have such great passion for industry. Hey guys, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Dude, thanks
I've
for having me.
enjoyed it, Jason.
Hey, have yourself a good one.
It's great seeing you and great meeting you, Jason. Thanks so much.
Thanks, George.
And I look forward to having a few beers with you in person.
I guarantee you it's totally going to happen.
Me too. If you guys are going to be going to NIADA coming up in September now, we'd love to meet you guys there as well.
That'd be definitely fun to do. Thanks again, guys. You have yourself a good one.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.